You've just joined the Prepper Broadcasting Network, where we promote self-reliance and independence. The views and opinions expressed are strictly those of the host or their guests. Visit us in the interactive chat room at prepperbroadcasting.com.
Tonight's broadcast brought to you in part by Joe and Amy Alton, the authors of the #1 Amazon bestseller, The Doom and Bloom Survival Medicine Handbook. See their articles in Backwoods Home, Survivalist, Self-Reliance Illustrated, and Survival Quarterly magazines. Visit Joe and Amy's website at www.doomandbloom.net.
Good evening, and welcome to Preparing for Life Storms with BexarPrepper. Today is Tuesday, November 20th, 2012, and it's my pleasure to welcome you in tonight. We are on air from 8 to 9 p.m. Central Time on the first and third Tuesday of the month on American Preppers Radio, powered by PrepperBroadcasting.com. We broadcast 12 different hosts 7 days a week. Tomorrow night, Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Time, Prepping with Goat Hollow. He'll be there to answer your questions and provide some lively chat. For those of you that are listening in, we would love to have you join us in the chat room. Just go to PrepperBroadcasting.com and scroll down to enter the chat. Also, on the right of the chat, you'll find where you can sign up for announcements for upcoming shows and important information directly to your email. Now a word from our sponsors.
Are you storing food? Prepared families are storing food for months and years, but only have enough fuel stored for days or weeks. Stretch your fuel storage by harnessing the power of the sun with the Sun Oven. Foods can be baked, boiled, or steamed at temperatures of 360 to 400 degrees with the power of the sun. You can use the sun for 50 to 80% of your cooking, allowing you to preserve your fuel storage for rainy days. Sun-baked foods stay moister and have less shrinkage and do not burn. Sun-baked roasts are tastier and more succulent, and sun-baked bread has unparalleled taste and texture. Water can be heated in the Sun Oven for purification or personal hygiene. For the past 26 years, Sun Ovens have been proudly made in the USA. They are durable, have a long life, and come with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Don't be fooled by cheap imitations. For a discount coupon, visit sunoven.com/preppersradio. That's www.sunoven.com/preppersradio.
You know, the concept of survival pack, bug-out bag, or get-home bag is pretty basic. You are preparing for anything from a natural disaster to an unplanned jaunt into the woods. Imagine that a natural disaster has just occurred. A tornado hit, a massive hurricane, or you've just lost electricity indefinitely due to wind or ice storms. You only have moments to leave your house, and you're going to be away for days. In that short time frame, you need to grab the essential things that will help you survive. In that moment, how much simpler would it be to grab your bug-out bag that you've pre-packed with the most important items you need to survive? This bug-out bag is ready to go at a moment's notice. So what do you put in your bug-out bag? It really depends on first where you're trying to get to. Are you trying to get home? Are you trying to get to your bug-out location? If you're trying to get home, you pretty much know what distance you drive, and what you will need. My thoughts are the places that take you longer than 24 hours to get to require a bug-out bag. Otherwise, it's a simple get-home bag. My reasoning is that anything greater than 24 hours, and you really have no way of knowing if the current situation is going to change dramatically or remain the same. So you need to be prepared for whatever might come in your path. So first, let's talk about your get-home bag. This is a pretty simple concept. Your priorities for your get-home bag are truly personal. For myself, living in Texas, water will always be my number one item to consider. It's not like I'm going to find a lot of streams along the route to take care of my needs. In other parts of the country, water is not your concern, so you'll just carry your basics. Moleskin and a pair of comfortable shoes are the next on my list for my get-home bag. Remember, how many of us really walk 15 miles a day so that we're in shape to make it home? A flashlight, since 15 miles might take me into the hours of darkness, especially if it occurs in the winter. Jacket for winter, hat for summer. Protection. Whether for you that is a gun, a knife, pepper spray, you should have something. Then I have what I call my nice-to-have list. Some type of energy bars to curb my hunger pains and keep my strength up. Everybody can go 24 hours without food. A first aid kit, nice to have. Toilet paper, yeah. I said toilet paper is nice to have because we all know how many people litter and that there's always something flying around on the side of the road that we can use in an emergency. Yeah, gee, I bet Doritos and beer. Nice bug-out bag additive. So, you got to kind of set these up for what you need. And if you're, 5 miles away, then you're going to pack differently than I do. If you live in Minnesota in the winter, then you may have to have a full-size pack where I can get by with a little fanny pack or something. So a bug-out bag is probably the most cliche emergency preparation in the history of survivaldom. Some people focus so much on compiling the bug-out bag that they lose track of much more important survival matters, while others are so biased against the bug-out concept that they refuse to even consider putting one together. Adaptability is the key to survival, and because of this, we cannot discount certain options out of hand. Sorry, H-Red, I had to pause for a second because I just saw your exercise, 26 steps to the fridge. I like that. The bug-out bag should not be our primary concern, but it should be somewhere on your list. First and foremost, those who wish to prepare for a collapse event or other disaster should focus on survival location. Where will you be the safest? At home or at a retreat? Food storage? A year's worth for each person in your family or group is really the bare minimum, though some retreatists have the skills to get by with a lot less. Water storage? If the taps stop running, how will you maintain your water supply? Remember, the average person can die after 3 days without water. It is a very important item. And self-defense. How are you going to defend the supplies you have from those wandering looters who did not prepare? How many people do you know that you can actually count on to stand their ground when the situation grows truly frightening? If you haven't already addressed these important issues, having a bug-out bag will do you no good, and you will have lost before the fight has even begun. Do you believe that you are so safe in your survival location that you can't be bothered with a secondary retreat or even a bug-out bag? This is equally foolish. As intuitive and as well-researched as we are, we still have no way of knowing what would really happen in the event of total meltdown. Could your homestead be the future site of a refugee camp? Could a poorly maintained campfire set a forest fire that sweeps right through your home where you've escaped all your survival hopes? There are an infinite number of reasons why you may have one day have to leave your primary retreat location, possibly without warning. No one is invincible, and sometimes it's better to walk away and live to fight another day. This is where the bug-out bag comes in. The bug-out bag offers you a chance at survival when all else seems lost. This is its purpose. The more ingenuity invested in the contents, the better your chances will be. Finding items and tools that streamline efficiency, space, weight, or serve two or more functions at once is crucial. Packing a tent is not as efficient use of space as some paracord or branches that you can quickly construct something to keep you out of the elements. Or better yet, under a bridge would suffice for the night. The extra weight could be used for more important items such as food or water. Using existing rock formations, fallen trees, caves, etc. helps to obscure your presence and blend its shape in the surroundings. A heavy-duty thermal blanket can be used to insulate your shelter during cold nights. Light and fire discipline cannot be overstated, which is another reason why eating foods that require no preparation is important, at least the majority of the time. The goal is to avoid altercation, to go as unnoticed as possible until you reach your primary retreat. Rest when you're sick. If it takes a few days, don't try to push on until you've battled it. Otherwise, it will stick with you for weeks or even cause serious damage. The most important bug-out tool of all is your brain and your spirit. Smart people with solid knowledge base and a powerful intuition are most likely to succeed under the worst conditions. Intelligent, logical, and precise action can turn a catastrophe into any other day. Catastrophes tend to affect those who are unprepared or those who lack knowledge. A catastrophe is simply an obstacle we have already trained to remove, and nothing to be frightened of. We never stop or give up. There is always a way. You just have to stop and use your most important tool, your brain. A bug-out event is definitely one of the worst scenarios I can think of, mainly because it involves so many unknowns. But with a well-planned bug-out bag, a level head, and a defiant heart, nothing is impossible. You can live through it. Never forget it. It can be done. So now, let's talk about what should be in your bug-out bag. And since I'm not the individual responsible for our family's bags, I thought it would be important to have the person responsible on the show. He is someone I value, respect, and look up to. One of the most level-headed individuals I know. I would like it if you would all welcome my son, Dustin. Hi, Dustin. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Doing really good. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Not a problem at all. Glad I could be here.
Well, you know, as I said to everybody, you're the one that does our bug-out bags and does all the research and all of that. And so I think it's important for people to understand that what are the things that we can't live without, that there is a difference between the things that we'd like to have and the things we can't live without, and what kind of things are those?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the hardest part because the biggest thing that you run into problems with is weight. And it just can't be overstated how much of a concern the weight has to be. So you've really got to prioritize what you need. which is just going to be the essentials, but that's going to change depending on where you need to go or what you're planning for. In our situation, for at least the immediate threat, the destination is set. We have our bug out location, so we know where we're going in general. That can always change. So if you have the weight to spare, you do want to prepare for as much as you can. But once you know where you're going, know what terrain you're going to be crossing, you can conquer those challenges. The biggest issue most people face is water. So you've got to figure out a way based on your route and where you're going to be, how you can get, a liter to really, if you're really moving it, a gallon of water a day. The next thing is really going to be food. You need some sort of food, especially in a situation where you really are bugging out. It's the first couple of days when you are bugging out, it's going to be a little shocking. You can't really rely on yourself to be able to hunt and things like that. So you've got to have some kind of food. Protection is also really important. You've got to have a way to protect yourself depending on where you're going. And so you just got to kind of conquer it like that and figure out what is the most you can get in there with the weight that you can actually carry for how long you're going to be traveling.
Well, that weight part is the biggest issue that I see. I'm a small woman, and me carrying a 25-pound pack, it may not seem like much, but when you're walking, you think you're going to be able to make so many miles per day, and in every situation that I've ever heard of anybody having to do that, they've always been surprised how little progress they made every day. And I think starting out with too heavy a pack actually decreases your ability over the long haul to get there. Is that something that you see?
Oh, I mean, definitely. You've really got to think about that. I've been in situations where I recall one where we were hiking with just a very minimal amount of gear, and we decided to go down the back side of the hill as opposed to the front side of the hill. Same distance, but the terrain was different, and a hike that took us 10, maybe 15 minutes up the front side of the hill ended up taking us an hour 20 down the back side of the hill. So you've really got to know your route, even if it's not very realistic for everyone to go, and especially, in our situation where it's a 3 or 4 day excursion possibly, to go and walk our route in preparation. But you do need to study maps and things like that and kind of know what you're going to be encountering, because that can really affect it. And so you've really got to try to get as much as you can out of the weight. And also, in certain situations, if you're going through a large urban area and you're going to spend a lot of time in urban areas, you've got to think about your profile as well. What size of a bag you're carrying. If you're walking through a downtown metropolis, you can't be carrying a pack like mine. I have a full-size rifleman pack in ACU. I could fit 120 pounds of gear in there. But if you're walking through downtown in a bag that big, you're going to attract a lot of attention, and it's not going to be the good kind of attention. So that's another consideration, is just overall size. And it helps to have a plan with a lot of people, because you can spread out things among people, because there can be a lot of items, especially water, that you might need to carry quite a bit of that isn't really plausible to carry on one person. So being able to split that up so you can have a very diverse set of equipment can be a big advantage. But you still have to be self-sufficient. You don't know if you'll get split up or if something unfortunate will happen to the other members of your group. You've got to be able to make it to your destination off what's in your pack as well.
Yeah, that's an important aspect, and one of the things that I worry about most is making sure that everybody has something, so that if something were to happen and we had to scatter, we could all make it there with what we had in our pack. Now, let's take a moment and let's go ahead and let's start going through some of the essential items that people need to consider, especially those that are dual purpose, that you think are logical to have in a person's bug-out bag, not their get-home bag?
Right. We all know the basics, survival basics. I think we can all figure that out for ourselves, kind of what we would need. The biggest thing I think people really don't think about is maps and the ability to read a map. It's not a super difficult skill. It does take a little practice, but being able to take a topographical map and actually use a compass or landmarks to get to places is probably the biggest thing I think people just don't think about. You've got to at least have some general skills in that unless you know the route you're going. Or if you're not going to have a route, if you're just planning a bug-out bag for just to get out, your stuff is all at your house and it's a good idea to have a bug-out bag just in case your house is burning down, well, you still could use a map because where are you going to get water? If you don't know the surrounding area, where are you going to get water? Another important thing is light. You sometimes might be in a situation where you need to travel in the dark, and if that's not something you do on a day-in, day-out basis, walking in the dark, you're going to need to use some light to kind of get your bearings. You don't walk straight when you're walking. Whatever handed side you are, you do take a much bigger stride to where you give it a mile, you are way off course. So you're gonna need to pay attention to landmarks and really know where you're at. So at night you're gonna need light, which everyone thinks flashlights and stuff, but light also can be a big moral boost if you're traveling a lot at night or you're camping at night. And chem lights can be really good for that. Another advantage I've seen with chem lights is if you get separated and you have to continue, you can take a chem light and you can poke a hole in it or cut the top off the chem light. And with a good chem light, if you dribble out the fluid, you can actually leave a slight trail that if someone is looking for it, they can generally see it. It doesn't get too bright. It's almost a chem light would be like what you see kids getting on Halloween, the ones you crack and they glow, the chemical reaction lights.
Like a glow stick?
Like a glow stick. You can use the regular glow sticks. If you're going to put them in a bug-out bag, I would say it would be worth it to get some higher-grade chem lights because the 8-hour burn on your average, dollar store chem light is really about 2. And I don't know how well they store, but I can't imagine very well. But if you get a military-grade chem light, which will be hard to find, but one that is close to it, you can get an 8-hour burn of actual usable light. So that's a big thing that can really help. They don't weigh much, and a whole chem light weighs less than 8 hours worth of batteries on most things. Another big thing, instant coffee is a big thing that we have in our bags. Nice pick-me-up.
Moral booster.
Yeah, a nice moral boost too, which I think I have like 12 of those in my bag, which seems like a lot, but you figure 3 days, if everything's going stellar, it would be nice to have some coffee throughout the day, and it weighs next to nothing. Another big thing, a good compass, as I found out today when I was going through my bag in preparation for this, I bought a pretty decent compass. It was not good enough. I guess at some point during the trips to Alaska, my compass got knocked off and got kind of stuck, and so now it no longer works. And so you really, that is an investment to know true north. And Moppy just mentioned a really good compass, and that's probably what I'm going to be going with to replace mine. But I know the stars vaguely, but I don't know it well enough to rely on it. So a compass for me, at least I will have some sense of where I am. So when daylight hits, I can look at some landmarks and figure out where I am.
Well, you brought up another great point with that, checking your bug-out bag occasionally. I think most of us fill it up, set it aside, and walk away. And, that's not really the brightest idea.
No, you really, and it's a struggle because, like I said, it's not realistic for most people to get out and really test their bag. But if you can make the time for it once, you will at least have an idea of you'll do it every time. You'll load it up. You'll be like, oh, you'll lift it up. This is easy. I can carry this. Walk around with it for an hour, and you'll go, sure, I got to get some weight out of this. I've got to figure out something. And if you're planning on carrying a gun, really think about the ammo you would need that you would feel is sufficient, and probably add a little bit more. Ammo weighs a lot, so if you are going to carry a gun for self-defense, you got to realize it's even 45. There's a bit of a weight to that. Shotgun shells, there's a lot of weight to that. 100 shotgun shells weighs quite a bit, so you've got to really pay attention to that. And so if you can check it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to say, folks, if you'd like to call into the show, the number is 347-202-0228. And remember, just press 1 to speak to Dustin or myself. But, yeah, that's a good point. But do you really think someone needs 100 rounds?
I do. That's personal preference. For me, I have an AR-15.
I know.
And for a 3-day excursion, I would probably, even though just because of the what if I can't make it, what if there is something in my way that I have to deal with. For me, I would say per rifle, I would probably plan on 250 rounds. But that's me. I am a very large man. I can carry a lot of weight. My bag without ammo, I think, probably weighs, without ammo and a little extra water, which I need to add, it probably weighs about 30 pounds, and that's with a shovel. That's with a camp stove of a certain point, and that's with a whole lot of food. But you've really got to think about the weight. If you can't handle that for 3 days, you've got to really, and I mean, that's where really, honestly, the most important thing, if you really think you're going to use this, which you might, the thing you should spend the most money on is probably the bag itself. And you've really got to think about where you're going to be traveling most of the time. If you're going to be in an urban environment most of the time, you probably don't want a gigantic military bag in camo. If when you get out to where you're going and you've got to, go on your little special ops mission, you can wear your camo, but when you're trying to get to where you're safe, you want to be careful. You can get amazing hiking bags at most of the sporting goods stores. And if you're going to be carrying, I'd say probably about 20 pounds, you're going to want to get one with a frame. Believe me, the frame is the key. Even if you can only afford an Alice pack, a medium Alice pack with a metal frame is not bad. I would highly suggest investing in the upgraded straps, which you can usually buy them without straps, and get the better straps because they're about $30 and they really make a huge difference. You can go to mill surplus stores and you can get the current issue military rucksacks, and they have a very lightweight, very, very, very sturdy plastic frame. They have a drag handle, and they have mole gear. So, like for mine, I have 2 dump bags on the side of my bag, mostly for ammo. I have binoculars in there, some things like that. And I have a shovel, which storing that shovel anywhere else other than a shovel holder would take up a whole lot more room. But that shovel holder hangs off the back, and it's perfect. That's another big thing I think that can be useful for a lot of weight, if you can afford it, is they make these awesome collapsible shovels that not only they're pretty sturdy. You could mess somebody up with one, but a lot of them will have not very good, but better than nothing saw blades on the side, to where when you don't want to wear out your knife, you can use that. That's another big thing. You really want to try to mix tools. A lot of people advocate the multi-tools. They can be handy. If you don't carry one on your person usually, you'd probably want to start if you plan on carrying one in the bug-out bag, because they can be a little tricky to use, and you might buy one that you think you'll be able to use all the tools on, and it just doesn't fit your hand, which those are good to have around you. You'd be surprised how much you would use a multi-tool if you kept it on your belt all day. I mean, we all keep our cell phones there, at least a lot of us, and so if you throw a multi-tool on the other side, it'll help balance out your pants as well. It'll be pretty useful.
Well, what about fitting a pack? I know there's a certain way to put on a pack, a certain way to carry it. Otherwise, it's going to cause you a lot of pain. Is there something that we're going to fit packs that we should be considering when we're putting these on our backs?
You can definitely, I have had a lot of help from the people at the outdoor stores. When I was first looking for a pack, I went and looked at hiking packs first, and I got a lot of great tips. The one thing I've learned is you don't fit the pack empty. Put some stuff in it, get the weight up, I'd say around at least half of what you plan to carry, and then fit it on your person. Have somebody else kind of look at it, see if they see anywhere where there's slack, because basically the pack should fit to you like a glove. It should be right up against you. You should use, in general, some of the hiking packs get a little ridiculous, but use all the buckles. You really need, if you're carrying, I'd say, above 30 pounds, you need a belt on the pack, and you need at least a chest retention as well towards the top. Another thing is if you're planning on using a hydration bladder, if you just slip that under any pack without kind of figuring out how it fits, it's going to really, really, really mess up the way the pack fits on your back. So most of the military packs, you actually slip it between the pack and the frame rather than the frame in your body. That's another big thing that you need to think about with the packs before you use them. That Watcher just brought up is you probably don't want any reflectives. Put that on a medical bag if you want. You could maybe even justify putting that on a get home bag, because you're probably not in a position to where if someone wanted to harm you, you could do much about it. You also want anything reflective, anything shiny. You're going to want to deal with that before you need the pack. Another big thing that people just don't realize is when you're lugging a big pack and you're getting tired, you're stomping through, terrain. If there's anything that jingles and makes noise as far as buckles and zippers and stuff, it's going to be really, really loud. Loud enough to where other people at a decent range are going to be able to hear you, and you're not going to be able to hear them. So you want to try to do your best to get that stuff strapped down. Or if you have two zippers that meet, wrap each zipper head with some electrical tape. Little simple things like that to control noise discipline.
Okay, it looks like we've got a couple people in the queue that want to speak to you. We've got Genius in Exile in the queue. Hey, G.
Hey, how y'all doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Really good.
Good. Hey, since we're talking about bug-out bags, etc., I was just kind of thinking of exploring the virtues of a load-bearing vest with a molly gear on it. Because, you got a bag, but if you do have to run, that thing's going to be bouncing around. I don't care how well you strap it to your body. It's still going to be bouncing around a bit. So I also have a load-bearing vest with some molly gear on there. And that's what I also do to kind of redistribute the weight. So if for some reason I do lose my bag, I at least have something on my body I can keep running with.
Yeah, that's definitely a good idea. That's something that I'm currently in the process of trying to find. It's a lot harder for me to find a mole vest that will actually fit me. So I can't just order them willy-nilly, but yeah, that can be a big thing. I know people that have fit an entire bug-out bag in a vest, and that is an option. If you think you're going to have trouble with the weight, or if you're worried you have a bad back, they make things so you can distribute that weight elsewhere. You have leg holsters, you have just load bearing, almost like suspenders and stuff that you can hang stuff on as well. But the vest can be really handy, even if you don't get a mole vest. when I was in Alaska, you had a lot of people who didn't have survival kits in their car, which we all had something. You had a little bit of water and a little bit of food. They would actually just take a fishing vest and fill that with the supplies, and you'd be surprised how much stuff you could get in a fishing vest.
Yep, it's important to have as much and as little with you as possible. And making those decisions, it's so tough because you try to load it up and, you know, like Bear said, the nice to have, and you got to make your, you know, your compromises. Okay, well, you have to think about where you are and where you're going to be most of the time and where you need to be and all those things you're going to need on the way. You know, somebody else made a good point of military boots. I definitely have some, and I keep mine in a styrofoam cooler, and I keep my bag in a cooler because, you know, I'm here in Texas, and it gets pretty hot, and I don't want all that stuff to go nasty on me, and my boots to dry rot, even though I, you know, try to get them out and wear them as much as I can. But, you know, it's always about compromise. You know, what do you really, 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 really need, you know? So,
yeah,
it's
that's
kind of a tough
hard balance. Hard balance. Well, gee, thank you so much for calling in.
Well, thank you guys. Y'all take care. I'm enjoying the show.
Okay, you have a great evening.
You too.
Dustin, night. It looks like we got Pat Prepper in the queue. Hey, Pat, come on in.
Hi, guys. Hi, Bear. Hi, Dustin.
Hi.
You have given so much great information, things that I never thought about. And as soon as the show's done, I'm going to try on the water bladder filled up underneath the backpack because I never thought of that, ever. I mean, that's great.
It changes it drastically. So my suggestion would be, if you can, flip it between the bag and the frame rather than the frame in your body, because when I tried it the other way, there was no way I could have even carried 20 pounds like that, much less 35, 50.
Okay, and I do have one with the frame on it, so, and it's got like the hip cushions and the strap around, you know, It's awesome. So I will definitely try that. Something that I wonder if a lot of people have thought about, if you have a lot of pets or you have any pets and you have a pet that is able to carry like a bug-out bag of its own, you know, that's something that people might want to think about, you know, storing some food and water in there, and only storing food and water and, you know, medication or leashes or stuff. But I've seen a lot of videos on people that have done videos on backpacks for dogs, and they have blankets and toys and all this stuff in there that, you know, there's no way that the dog is going to be able to carry it. You know, my poodle, his only has food and water in it, and he can barely run around with it. So, you know, you can't fit that much stuff in there, but it does take some weight off of you, you know. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, just to be able to have them carry their own food, what a blessing that would be, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would suggest. If you have a dog that's big enough to carry more than its own food, I'd leave it. I wouldn't put anything extra, because then you probably have a dog that might come in handy in other ways. In our situation, neither of our dogs could carry a darn thing. So I'm of the opinion, leave the dogs, but obviously my mother and my sister are not. So that is something you definitely have to think about. You'd hope by the time you're bugging out, unless it is your retreat, is your home, and all your stuff is there, that it would still be early on in some kind of issue. And so, you know, leaving the dogs is going to be a huge moral defeat that you definitely want to try to avoid if you can.
Right.
So if you got a dog that can carry its own food, it's worth. I mean, when in Alaska, almost every dog you saw out hiking would have a backpack because they carry their own weight. You didn't have enough of that, and if you did, I mean, you're always at a risk of getting trapped and needing that kind of stuff. So you kind of always had that on you, and kind of living like that really gives you some insights as to what you might need. Just kind of thinking like that, you know. Even if it's just niceties, if you get a flat tire, wouldn't it be nice to have a Snickers? I mean, be a nice pick-me-up after you change the tire. So just thinking about even just doing things to make it nice. We make the dogs carry that, yeah.
Well, Pat, is there a specific kind of dog bob that we should be looking for? I mean, do they need padding, or it's just a bag, or what should we be looking for?
Well, if you search it on the internet, I don't have a link right now, but they do make some that are pretty reasonable, around $20-$30. So it just would be kind of hard to fit them over the internet, I think. I just went to the thrift store and bought two little miniature briefcase type things, real lightweight, for $3, and then I sewed them onto a stretchy vest and tucked and sewed the vest so that it fit the dog perfect. And I used makeup bags for the poodles, and I just sewed, took some fabric and sewed his and sewed Velcro on it. You can do it yourself really, really cheap, and it'll be custom fit to your dog, but they do make them pretty reasonable, that they're actually made for dogs. So,
well, thank you, Pat. That's some great information tonight. And, folks, Pat will be on the next show, December 4th, talking about our pets and SHTF. So hope you tune in then.
All right. Thanks, guys. Great show.
Thank you, Pat. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Okay, Dustin. Well, we're getting a lot of questions in the chat room. Everybody wants to know what was missing in my bug-out bag. So there was a lot of stuff missing in my bug-out bag. It was about getting you thinking, because if you can look at someone else's bug-out bag and say, oh, I need this and you need this and this and this and this, then that means you're thinking about what needs to be in yours. Let me give out the phone number real quick. Go ahead and call in, folks. The phone number is 347-202-0228. And I got to take care of some business real quick, Dustin, if you'll hold on. This week on Crooked Path to Preparedness, Sissy Bob will be continuing her discussion of prepping through hard times, disabilities, and difficulties. So remember to tune in next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Time. And now a word from our sponsors.
This broadcast is brought to you in part by Ozark Mountain Preparedness, providing top-quality instructional courses for people who desire to pursue a self-reliant lifestyle, whether in the wilds or right at home. Course topics include wilderness and urban survival, fur trapping, bushcraft, primitive skills, long-term wilderness living, land navigation, GPS, home disaster preparation, outdoor cooking, food procurement and storage, foraging wild edibles, and many others. Visit Ozark Mountain Preparedness at www.ozarkmountainpreparedness.com. This broadcast also brought to you in part by Emergency Essentials. Power outage, hurricanes, flash floods, earthquakes, tornadoes, solar flares, job loss, zombies, Armageddon. It doesn't matter what you're preparing for, Emergency Essentials will help. From tips for preparedness to food and water storage to ready-to-go emergency kits. Visit their website at beprepared.com and let Emergency Essentials help you prepare for, well, anything.
Okay, folks, I might have a little more experience than a lot of people. Every year I used to pack up my backpacker's backpack, and I would hike up into the mountains for 10 days by myself. And one of the things that really I learned awful quick was that dehydrated food gets old really quick. And after the first year, I actually started carrying a stick of butter, a fish hook, and a piece of foil. And every year during this 10 days, about day 8, I would find a way, come heck or high water, to catch a fish and cook that up over the fire. And that was my only fresh food. And you would be surprised how little you really need for a 10-day trip. I mean, I just had a little backpack. Nothing like what I have now for my bug-out bag, because I'm not carrying just for myself. But you got to keep that in mind. There's really a whole lot less that you need than your mind thinks you do. So, Dustin, we talked a lot about bug-out bags. Now, one of the things that there's a big controversial over is food. Do you take food that you cook? Do you take MREs? Do you take protein bars? What should we do, and how do we judge which one we should do for our situation?
It's really going to depend on your situation and your mentality. Obviously, if there's a hurricane or something, it doesn't matter. So the way I kind of look at everything that I put in my bug-out bag, and really just how I prepare for almost everything, is worst-case scenario. Because what will work for the zombie apocalypse or, the hostile takeover by the Guatemalans will work for the hurricane or the earthquake or the power outage. It's still food. So I always think of it in the tactical sense of, okay, so I'm evading. I'm evading capture at the same time as I'm bugging out. I don't want to have to stop and cook food. So for me, not only weight-wise for the calories, but also because there's not a lot of mess. I can eat it while I'm moving. I don't have to cook it. I don't have to heat it up. Or the emergency rations, power bars, things of that nature. If you're looking at 10 days, you're gonna need to substitute that with some stuff that's a little more nutritious rather than just pure calories and sugar. I've seen a lot of people suggest multivitamins and stuff. The thing is, if you're going to do multivitamins, I would probably start taking multivitamins now, because I have known people who've started taking vitamins and had some very adverse effects. So if you just toss some multivitamins in there and you're, on day 2 and someone is chasing you and all of a sudden you have diarrhea, it's probably not going to be a good situation. That's another big thing that I found out today I was missing, was some kind of anti-diarrhea medication. That can really, really, really be important.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that's going to be important for everybody in every situation, because everything is going to be so different and our bodies are going to be under such tremendous stress from the hike, from the situation, from dealing with all the personalities or children. I think we're all going to have little bouts of that.
Oh yeah, and if you really got to pay attention to yourself. If you're the kind of person that, I guess there's no really nice way to say it, but has a bowel movement every day, you're going to want to bring toilet paper. Ditch the playing cards, ditch the radio, and carry some toilet paper. You're going to be very happy that you made that decision, rather than trying to get trash or leaves or anything like that. You'll think it was very much worth the wait and the space. If you're the kind of person who doesn't have a problem where you're pretty confident you wouldn't have that problem, you could go 3 or 4 days, and you only need to go 2, I wouldn't probably carry toilet paper. Another big thing is staying dry. That's another big thing you got to think about with your bag is waterproof. If it's pouring rain while you're walking, are you going to have to stop because your entire bug-out bag is going to be ruined because of the rain? Well, what if you're being pursued? That you can't do that, so you're going to ruin all your supplies. So you got to try to really think about that kind of stuff. If you're going to be crossing a lot of water, that's good because, man, you're going to have access to water. However, what if you fall? If your bag gets hit in the water and gets submerged, is all your stuff ruined? An easy way is just pack it in Ziplocs, and if it's important, put it in 2 or 3 Ziplocs. Matches, oh my goodness. Matches, put it in as many Ziplocs as you can justify, unless you're going to buy waterproof. But even the waterproof matches, trust me, when they're wet, they still suck to use. A lighter can be really handy, but if a lighter gets wet, you're kind of stuck in that regard too, if you need it quick. If vacuum packing, if you got the time to do that, that's a good idea. I find I constantly evolve my bug-out bag, so I usually do things that I can easily do because I'll always come up with something else, or I'll come up with a tool that combines 2 of my tools and use that instead.
We had some questions about children, but first we've got about 5 more minutes, folks. If someone wants to call in, it's your last chance. It's 347-202-0228. Traveling with children, that is going to be extremely difficult because trying to keep the kids focused and not exhausted you're going to need to invest in some sort of wagon. And I wouldn't do a little red wagon. They have those green garden wagons that are a little better suited for a rough terrain. But little kids is going to be a really tough haul, depending on how far you have to take them. What do you think, Dustin?
Oh, I can only imagine. I mean, it's going to be tough for anyone if you're not by yourself. It'll be tough by yourself too, though. But with anyone who's a close family member, I mean, you develop relationships where you do share your problems, and you can kind of get stuck in a this really sucks kind of mentality, and that can really slow you down. But with children especially, you I guess the key is trying to let them participate. Just like with anything else, if you get them interested in it, man, sometimes they make adults look like we're lazy if they're really excited about something. And with something like this, you can do that too. And then I mean, if you have the means to where you can get some type of wagon or cart or bicycle, honestly, that's probably what I would do rather than a cart. Is I would get a bicycle. Hopefully you just have one kid. Otherwise you might have to fashion a double seat or something. But you can walk a bicycle with a bunch of stuff on it for miles. That's a huge thing in Alaska again. A huge thing was you'd have a lot of people who decided it was a great idea to hike through the Yukon. And most of them have bicycles. They didn't ride the bicycles. They throw their packs and stuff on it, kind of like a mule, and use it to carry their equipment. Some of them got eaten by bears, but that's a whole different story.
I think the most important part with your kids is to get them involved in it, have them make their little bags and say, okay, what else do you need? Or let's try this, and have a bug-out bag, walk around the house, or walk around the block, and have the kids carry their bug-out bag and then sit down and have a little picnic on the floor with their bug-out bag. Teach them to not be afraid of it, and then if they ever do need to use it, you're not going to have crying, screaming kids. You got to make it fun for them, and that way they show no fear with it. And they'll actually come up with some great ideas for things that they need in it.
Yeah, one thing I just thought of that you could do is you could make them their own packs and fill it with not your typical storage food, but stuff they like. And maybe rotate it once a month and give them all the stuff and let them eat it and then pick up some more. And this way, the first day, they're so excited because they're carrying their pack and they're helping, and by the second day that they are totally tired, you've already eaten all the food in their packs and you can just toss the packs away.
That's an idea. Yeah, but I think I'd want my kids to carry it the whole way. Sorry. That's the kind of mom I was.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that you think is real important that we should, that you want to clarify or get in on these last couple minutes of the show?
The biggest thing, and it's still going to be everyone listening just not going to do it. But you've got to try your pack. Like I said, it's really a process. You get your pack, you're excited, you load it up. Try it on for an hour. Trust me, within an hour, you're going to put the pack back down and go, I have made a terrible, terrible mistake. When I first loaded up my bug-out bag, I must have had probably 100 pounds. And me carrying 100 pounds for a day, I would hate my life at the end of the day, but I could do that. However, for 3 days, I'm not going to be walking at the end of that. And there's nobody I know who can carry me at 260 pounds. That's just not going to happen. No one's going to be able to carry me. So you walk around with the pack, and then if you're like, you know what, I think I've got the weight to an area I want, throw on your boots. Try it again for an hour. Or whatever you're going to wear to bug out, which I would suggest boots, but if you can find some sturdy shoes, that's probably a better choice for most people. Again, I kind of think everything in a tactical environment, and if you're going to be living off a backpack for a week or two, you're going to probably want some boots. and then see how much it hurts. And then kind of adjust things. I mean, you've got to figure out what you need bare minimum first. And I think that's the way with all kinds of preps is you've got to figure out exactly what you need bare minimum and what resource you can use on the way.
I think one of the things that all of us should do, like you said, it's really hard to put your bug-out bag on and walk to the retreat. That's just something that you just won't do. I think everybody should challenge themselves to wear a bug-out bag for a weekend. Wear it around the house, do your daily chores with it, and just wear it. And then I really think, and live out of it. Use the items that are in it. When you want to drink the water out of your bug-out bag. And when you're hungry, eat the food out of your bug-out bag. And it'll give you a greater intuition to what it is you need and how it's going to be for you. Now, Bobby asked about what about handicapped folks or handicapped children. That's a really tough one. There are so many different handicaps that are out there, just like little kids. There's so many different little kids. You almost, as parents, you know what your children are capable of and what they're not capable of. And so you really just have to look inside yourself. Remember, the greatest tool is your brain and your heart. So just use that, and you just have to go with your best judgment, because nobody can tell you how to do what you already know to do. And that's the best advice that I can give you myself. Well, Dustin, I want to thank you for being on the show with me. It has been wonderful, and it's so nice to have you back from Alaska. Your mama missed you.
Well, it was good to be on. I had a lot of fun, and I hope I gave you guys some things to talk about and some skills to think about, too, from just what you put in your bug-out bag. Land navigation, that is my favorite thing to talk about, and that's probably the most important thing in a situation without power. Well,
thank you, hon, and I love you. And, folks, let me go ahead and close out tonight. We're going to talk, economic collapse has come, and we're off to our retreats with all our pets in tow. So now what do? Do you know how to take care of your pets? What should we have on hand to ensure our pets, which are now becoming alert dogs, be taken care of, and how do we do it? Join me and Pet Prepper as she talks about the appropriate tools and skills to keep us prepared in case of SHTF. Just because we're in the middle of a crisis doesn't mean that we forget our obligations we made when we brought our best friends into our home. The answer doesn't lie in letting them fend for themselves. So I hope to see you Tuesday, December 4th at 8 p.m. Central Time. So tonight as we end, I'd like to wish you all a wonderful and safe Thanksgiving holiday. For those of you traveling, Godspeed. Let me close with a quote from Melody Betty. Gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. It turns what we have into enough and more. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos to order, confusion to clarity. It can turn a meal into a feast, a house into a home, a stranger into a friend. Gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. You can find more from me on YouTube and on Facebook, also here on the first and third Tuesday of the month. Thank you for spending your valuable time with me. Good night and blessings.